Welcome. These will be my thoughts on The Patient, Season 1, Episode 8, Ezra. The episode is rated TVMA, so with this video there will be spoilers for these first 8 episodes. And another episode that I absolutely loved. So I really appreciate the way that this really let us see Ezra separate from Alan, and the way that they both feel like they should have been better to the other. And the yeah, the thing about Alan says, just because I didn't say anything doesn't mean that the other person didn't sense my resentment, and that is something that can be difficult to come to terms with. And I think, yeah, not entirely sure how, but there are 2 episodes left. Um, and this is a really good way to, really escalate. He has killed 2 people in just a few days, and now he's decided he's going to kill a third. And let's see. I guess that might be it for the overarching. So yeah. So scene by scene, the not necessarily in chronological order. Yeah, I appreciate the way that he's trying to sharpen the edge of the yeah the I actually have no clue what that thing's called. Tube? Like because let's see, I don't think it's toothpaste. I think it's foot cream. But yeah, isn't that what's a tube of toothpaste? I think it's something like that. Anyway, um, I don't usually use that word in English. Yeah, and the fact that you can hear the sound of it, of him scraping it, as he's talking to Charlie after we see him do it, and we also hear it there at the end again. And let's see, I think that pretty much covers. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job on the conversations with Charlie. The yeah, um, the the way that he gradually, which is part of. I'm not sure it's all therapy, but some therapy, the patient should realize themselves on, um, you know, yeah. Um, the idea is for the therapist to bring them to the realization. And let's see. And I think they did do a good job of, because, like, yeah, I too thought that it was, that it wasn't that much of an Alan thing. But yeah, when you really sit down and think about it, yeah, he does want things to be a very specific way, and they don't come out and say it, but maybe part of why he became a therapist was to not constantly feel that way, or to see, or maybe he felt like, well, since I know how everything should be, I can tell other people through therapy, but yeah. Yeah, it was really great when when he's like saying to Charlie what he wants to be able to say to Ezra. And let's see. Yeah, the thing about the well, I mean, so you said she made the best kosher steak that you've ever had, and Alan's like, fuck you, Charlie. And like, whoa, that's inappropriate. He's dead. But yeah, it is one of those things, and I like Alan saying anything can be a backhanded compliment. Yeah, hypothetically, if you're limber enough, but some things more so than others, if we're being honest, so listen, I've fucked up myself. I've sometimes said shit where later I was like, oh fuck, I didn't mean it like that though. So yeah. Um it's very realistic that he's in the moment he's not completely or in the time uh not mattering area that these hypothetical conversations with the dead guy are taking place. He's not willing to admit that that's what it. Yeah. Let's see. I think the yeah. Ezra, you know, going around hanging up, the missing persons posters, and the sister is gonna finish hanging the last of them up, and the he goes home and he brought non-kosher desserts, and one of his kids is overwhelmed with the emotion. There's he doesn't say anything, but I feel like it's a combination of the fact that he misses his paternal grandfather and this, like, Ezra's raising Ezra Jr., I guess. He's like, I can't believe we're Orthodox. And I like little details, little touches. The fact that not only did the thing, the stapler, that thing, not only did it break, but he also like cut himself on it, and then when he's bringing the desserts, he's struggling with, really several of them, but with the last one especially, he's struggling to open it. It's not like, obviously they're not actually like, you know um was the door cold sesame? Is that why it's open sesame? It's not like impervious, but when you're stressed, it can, feel like it. And yeah, um, and really great editing when he brings out these desserts, and first his wife and then his kids. We see their reactions, and it's very clear. It's not as welcome of a gesture as he had hoped, and it's it's very much this thing of like, there are different schools of thought. Some would say, well, when the chips are down, a smoker's a smoker. No, that's not it. That's when you need to show the most devotion to your beliefs. And someone else would say, no, it's okay to take just what's the, I think it's called a cheat day when you're on a diet, like, he's not saying let's never eat kosher again, but it is, of course, yeah. So I quite appreciated that. And right, and when he goes to Alan's place and gets out the guitar and performs, I think it's called Country Roads, so yeah. And it's this thing of like, because well, Dad tried to give it to you and you said no. And now he's like, I mean, and it's obviously, I think the term is magical thinking. Like, obviously, rationally, he knows it's not like his father got taken for this. This is not like an elaborate, cover up to try to get his, Alan didn't arrange this to have his son love him more or something, but yeah. And it's one of those things, he said he hadn't played for a while. I think that might well be true. I think playing a guitar, it's one of those things. It's like falling off a bicycle. You're, even if a long time passes without it happening, you could still do it. It's there, and it's muscle memory. And I think that does just leave the actual Sam stuff. So yeah, he is about to leave work, and one of his coworkers says that she's being sent to a place that she was just at. And he asks, well, he voices his concern to his supervisor. And I mean, there's a lot of supervisors who would not have taken it as well. It's one of those things like, it's terrible that Sam ends up killing Kyle, I think his name was. I can sort of understand why he, he feels like he's doing the right thing after all, but yeah. Let's see. But yeah, he points out, like, you can't just, like, there's a line for a reason, though. And afterwards, he stalks Lenny and Carl and Kyle, and yeah, I kept worrying that he was gonna, well, not worrying, not for Sam, worrying for Alan, because if Sam gets arrested, is if they keep him for long enough, what's going to happen to Alan if he doesn't tell them and they don't know where to check for Alan? But yeah, kept wondering if he was going to get recognized by someone or something. But yeah, at the end, he just goes over and, says, "Oh, hey, I didn't know you were here." And says you gotta come, we get the "you better come take a look at this" cliche. I'm gonna make a mental note, just saying it out aloud in case anybody else needs to hear. Don't go with if someone says you really gotta take a look at a dumpster. But yeah, I really appreciate, it is a fact that a number of people, when someone sorry, struggling against a headache here. there are a number of people who were killed by someone they knew personally. And that's part of how the killer was able to get the opportunity, because the person lowered their guard around them. And this obviously doesn't mean we should never trust anyone, just guys named Sam. No. You know, it means that, you know, one thing that we can do is, if someone that, you know, if when we hear someone be accused of, for example, murder, and it's of someone that, you know, that they didn't have any kind of personal relationship with, and we're hearing that, oh, well, you know, there was this other person, but they already knew the killer, though, you know, that might... Okay, I am not offering... It is way outside my wheelhouse to suggest what to do about, you know, such things in the real world. I mean, you know, if you're trying to solve a fictional mystery, I'm not giving advice to amateur sleuths. That's not what I'm doing here. I think that does bring us to, yeah, you know, he confronts him more directly this time, and just like immediately it really goes wrong. You know, he asks, you know, are you taking bribes? And then he says, you know, don't talk down to me. And then Kyle insults him, or it's perceived as an insult. You know, he says, you know, you must be simple if you... I know I'm slightly altering the lines here. You know, if you think that I'm taking bribes. And yeah, obviously Sam doesn't hear if, he just hears, you are simple. And yeah, just that's... and again, you know, Kyle is talking to him like he doesn't think that this is the killer. Yeah. And I'm not saying that he knows that he's on a serial killer show, but... Oh, actually, come to think of it, I'm not entirely sure. Have they said if they know there's a serial killer at work, or do they just think it's a bunch of random killings? I'm not entirely sure. I guess at this point, we might never find out if Kyle was taking bribes or not. And it's very much this kind of thing of, like, on the one hand, this might be the thing that leads to Sam being discovered for who he really is, to borrow a phrase from Dexter Morgan. Because, like, this is, you know... Well, let's see. I guess they don't know about... Because they said... Yeah, he said that he put the other guy somewhere that no one is going to find. Whereas Kyle will be found. So it's possible, but you know, one missing person... Actually, come to think of it, I wouldn't rule out, like... So they have two missing people and one body connected to one person, you know, because he was, like, a patient. Yeah, I wouldn't rule out that might be... which doesn't necessarily mean Alan gets out. Depends on if there's any... yeah. I think that does... yeah, and then as he's killing him, he says, "I didn't like the way you read my, the letter about me to the others, and yeah, that's there's just no fucking winning with this guy, is there? Jesus Christ. But yeah, it made him self-conscious, and he prefers other people conscious, except for the ones he knocks unconscious. But that's, yeah. Um, Jesus Christ, imagine that those being the last words you hear. But I think maybe brings us to the, let's see. Yeah, he talks to the high school therapist, and they make an appointment, and yeah, I gotta say, so he goes to Alan. They did a really, really great job on the thing with, he says 3 people in 3 days, because like, there's like very, very short, I don't know, maybe 2 seconds of me trying to like work out the mental math, and then going like, oh no, I wonder who the third one is. And yeah, uh, the I think that might pretty much bring us to but yeah, so they play table tennis, which was also such a, it's like, hey, wake up, I want to engage in sports with you, my captive. That's what he took away from killing Kyle. He was like, oh yeah, I miss table tennis. And I like the way that they underline the chain. There's a couple of times during the game where that um, we might hear the sound of it, for example. And I guess that pretty much yeah, I think so. The thing with, I appreciate that Sam actually realizes how, like him saying, you know, okay, so I get that this is a fucked up thing to ask, but hypothetically asking for a friend, how would you want to go? And then he tells, yeah, and it's one of those cases. I think it is on purpose that they use a joke that's been around for a little while. I think the first time I heard that joke, I was still like a kid or maybe teenager or something, so like a lot of us, like as soon as we hear him even start to, yeah, if you heard it, you probably remember the punchline even before Alan says it. Very nicely done on that, because like it's not so much about like, aha, bet you didn't see the punchline coming. It's more this thing of like, yeah, I mean, the joke already was written as, it's that thing about how a number of Jewish comedians will use comedy as self-defense in a way that you don't see from all cultures. that have comedy, and and also like they are the specific joke that Alan tells verbally is one that some of us have heard before, but to actually have someone tell that joke to their executioner as a Jewish person having been asked to choose how to die, yeah, like that's again, it's a great morbid joke. And I guess there's some chance that Sam himself realizes, because he's like, oh no, what have I set into motion? And yeah, I think that might just about cover the entire episode. Yeah, I'm worried that, I mean, I guess we'll see one of the last two episodes, but I'm worried that he's not going to get his request met. And I think that does pretty much cover let's see, I guess the I like the comparison where he brought up Scientology and the thing about, well, 41,000 a year to Shoshana's med school. And it is like, at the end of the day, whether or not Alan realized it at the time, he seems to realize it now. Yeah, there maybe was some like, it could be read at least as you know, a way to communicate, this is as much as we're willing to do. If you had your mother cover up, if you went to med school, sure, you can have, 41 grand a year. But if you're gonna, do this, then 1,000 is where I draw the line. Yeah, I think that covers everything. Yeah, I'm genuinely not sure how. Like, I could, if this had been episode 9, if there was only one episode left, then I would have an easier time. But I have no idea how there's going to be another 2 episodes. But yeah, I'm excited to find out. The next one I'll probably do, well, in general, the remaining ones. It won't be long before I don't intend for there to be a long time between any of them. I think that does cover yeah. I guess the so yeah, when Ezra is looking, he opens the guitar case and takes the guitar out. It's a good thing that the one that the guitar case out in the open was not the one Alan used years ago when he was killing drug runners.